Hi, you're listening to Scribble Talk, a podcast for bid and proposal professionals. My name is Pastor Sundram, and with my co-host Ashley Case, we will be sitting down with the industry leaders to share their stories, discuss their career, and learn how to make an impact in the industry. Today's guest is Tracey Silver. With over a decade of proposal management experience, Tracey has a firm grasp of every area within pitch process, including but not limited to evaluating an opportunity, developing a winning strategy, writing compelling content, developing appropriate graphics, and presentation coaching. As Associate Director of Marketing, Pitch and Proposals for Cooley, a global law firm with over 1,500 lawyers, Tracey is responsible for leading the day-to-day operations of the firm's centralized pitch and proposals team. Tracey has also been involved with APMP since 2015 and has held APMP Colorado board position since 2019. At the recent 2022 Dallas BPC, the Colorado chapter was recognized as the chapter of the year. Congratulations. Tracey was also named as one of the APMP 40 under 40 in 2018, and the same year her team was recognized as the Proposal OP Team of the Year. Wow. Tracey, so much to talk about you. Welcome to Scribble Talk.
Thanks so much. I'm glad to be here.
Tracey, let's go back to the very beginning. Where were you born? And let's talk about your early life in high school and education.
Sure. So I was born in New Jersey, which for those of you that are familiar, it's pretty close to New York. I know New York is very internationally known, but New Jersey is just sort of its little neighbor. And I grew up there about 30 minutes outside of Manhattan. And at a very young age, I think a lot of kids have ideas of grandeur and never thought I'd end up in proposal management. My career actually started out, I went to college at American University in Washington, D.C. and studied to do PR. And really my focus was on entertainment PR. And so my career first started by working for an entertainment PR firm. They were mostly what they call in the industry celebrity wranglers. And so I did a lot of celebrity events. And that's really where my career began. And from there, I did food and wine and spirits PR. And then that eventually led me to advertising. And I was doing, at that time, I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my life. I remember not thinking after being in PR for a few years that maybe PR really wasn't the right thing for me. And a friend of mine had called me and said, there's an opportunity at my advertising agency if you want to do inside sales. And that's actually where my world sort of changed. While I was doing inside sales for them, trying to figure out what I was going to actually do with the rest of my life, they asked me if I wanted to try my hand at doing an RFP. And I said, sure, what's an RFP? And that's sort of where everything changed for me in my career.
Wow. So when you were growing, let's just take every little thing that you just, Tracey, and let's just go a little deeper. Tracey, New Jersey, growing up in New Jersey, do you have any childhood memories popping up?
Yes, I mean, I have a lot of childhood memories. And in fact, I'm still very close to a lot of my childhood friends that I grew up with and I've known since I was about 2 or 3 years old, which is, I think, pretty rare to maintain friendships that long. And so I have a lot of memories of growing up with them and hanging out with them and all sorts of things all throughout my life, even to recent, even though we don't live close to each other anymore, we still connect monthly and have sort of like a group chat over Zoom, actually.
Nice. So from then on, celebrity PR, what happens there? And talk us through any interesting stories you have on the celebrity PR.
So actually, my first position outside of university, I started interning at a company called Lizzie Grubman PR, and that was a pretty interesting opportunity for me. For those of you who aren't familiar with Lizzie Grubman, she got into some trouble in the early 2000s, where she actually was arrested and spent some time in jail, which actually at the time I didn't think much of it, but it became sort of a really interesting opportunity for me, because not only was I really slowly learning the industry and the business and getting to meet celebrities here and there and talk to different people and things like that, but it became sort of one of those things on my resume that really stood out from other people. And a lot of times people wanted to interview me when I was looking for paid roles because of my experience at Lizzie Grubman PR. And, you know, a lot of people were curious. They'd heard a lot of things and rumors, and she was actually voted at one point in time as she was not necessarily well liked in New York or Manhattan. But I think she's actually done a lot of work to reclaim sort of her experience and her industry experience. And I think her reputation has significantly improved since then. But it became something that was really something that stood out on my resume, and people wanted to connect with me and talk to me mainly about her and my experience working for her. And the truth is, I had a really wonderful experience working at Lizzie Grubman PR. Like I said, I learned a lot. I was exposed to a lot of things. I got to meet different celebrities. I got to see, you know, how you throw an event and how you get celebrities to show up. And for me, it was a really valuable experience.
Totally. Any celebrities you met or you worked for during that period?
So I met a lot of different people. I met the Hilton sisters, Nikki and Paris Hilton. I met Tyson Beckford, who was a model at the time. Maggie Gyllenhaal, who's a famous actress. I mean, tons and tons of people. Megan Mullally, who's an actress. You know, and when I say I met them briefly during the events and would show them around or get them to the right place in the VIP area and things like that. So I don't want to mislead anyone in thinking that I had these strong relationships with these famous people. They were just sort of moments in time.
Totally, Tracey. That's so nice of you. Tracey, food and beverage PR. What happens there? Talk us through, what do you do at food and beverage PR?
Sure. So when I worked for a firm called Doyson Global Communications, they represented a lot of food and wine, spirits, that sort of industry. And in many ways, it's very similar. So, you know, there's a lot of press release writing, there's creating events for different alcohols or sponsoring different events. So sponsorships around how to have your wine or champagne or cocktail featured at a particular event. That was something that we did a lot of entertaining news people to make sure that you're building relationships with those who have the opportunity to write stories about your beverages, sometimes trying to get them on like the holiday lists or the best of lists, or even get particular cocktails featured in a magazine, that sort of thing. And again, there was a celebrity angle. A lot of the events that we did sponsor or work with were for celebrity events. So for example, we would sponsor maybe a movie opening or a premiere or something like that. And either a particular cocktail or a particular beverage would be sort of the feature beverage, and all of the drinks would feature this particular alcohol. And that's just, I guess, in a brief nutshell, some of the things we did. You know, sending out packages and getting different people familiar with either the food or the wine or the spirit that we were promoting is kind of a big part of what we did during that time, or what I did during that time.
Nice, Tracey. I think it's very interesting. I think people have come with different backgrounds to this industry, but your background is very unique. I'm sure listeners will know, having done like 200 plus episodes, this is one of the unique journey into the proposal industry. So you came in from a PR background and started RFP. Talk us through do you remember your very, very first proposal or an RFP, Tracey, and from then on, any memorable proposals?
Sure. So at that point in time, after working in entertainment PR for a little bit and food and wine and spirit PR for a bit, I sort of kept hearing my supervisors telling me I'd have to pay my dues. I have to pay my dues. I have to pay my dues. And at some point, I sort of felt frustrated and confused and wondered how long I'd have to be doing this before I, quote unquote, paid my dues. And so at that point in time, I felt like maybe this wasn't the right place for me. And as I said, one of my friends from college said that her company was looking to hire someone to do inside sales. And so I applied for that position and got that position, mainly because I figured, well, I need to be working while I figure out what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. And one day I was approached by one of the team leads, and they said to me, we think you can do a lot more than just talking with people on the phone and getting them to set up meetings and things like that. And so we'd like for you to try doing an RFP. And I said, okay, that sounds great. What's an RFP? I had no idea. I'd never heard of an RFP before. They explained what it was, and they had given me some training and showed me where content lied and past RFPs were, so I can use them as a reference point. And while I don't remember what my first RFP was, working at an advertising agency, part of what you're selling is your creativity. So I think that in particular was one of the first things that really stood out to me, is how can we think outside of the box and how we're putting together our materials. And there were some really interesting things that we had done. At one point in time, I remember we had done a proposal for the NYPD, and we had put everything together so it was almost like an evidence box. And we had sort of bagged and tagged all the different elements of our proposal to make it feel like something maybe they'd see, but also to make it fun. Another thing that they had done was, like a board game for a children's hospital. And the pieces were the different people who were going to be on the team. And some of the cards were sort of like, almost like a Candyland kind of game is how we sort of developed it. But the instruction manual was really the meat and potatoes of the RFP response. And then we had like fun little elements with cards and information and things like that to make it fun and interesting and unique.
Totally, Tracey. Again, when it comes to just an RFP, submission of an RFP best practice versus doing a pitch, what suggestions do you have of converting a proposal into a pitch or a pursuit?
A proposal into a pitch. So it's interesting. So at some of the places that I've worked at, they sort of use pitch interchangeably because they view pitches in a couple of different ways. For example, I worked at a law firm called Hogan Lovells, and they sort of use pitch interchangeably. So a pitch can be a proposal document. A pitch can be what they refer to as a credentials document. A pitch can also be a presentation. And so that sometimes is used interchangeably depending on I guess, the industry that you're in. So that's one thing I do want to note. Another thing that's, I guess standard in the industry is a pitch would maybe be considered orals versus a proposal would be sort of a document or something, some type of materials that you're submitting, whether it's a video or a website or something. But I think one of the things that I've seen across my career is once you make it from the proposal document and you're offered the opportunity to present or to pitch, or to have an orals meeting or interview or whatever you want to call it, that's sort of where you really pull out all the stops. You want to make it something unique and something memorable, because they might be meeting with a number of other companies, organizations. You're certainly probably not the only company that they're working with. So are there ways to make that pitch, that in-person meeting, or a lot of times now lately over Zoom or some other platform, how can you make it memorable and unique? And when they walk away, they remember your team. And there are definitely things that we've done over the years, or that I've been a part of over the years, to make that sort of a unique experience. Again, when I was working in advertising, they certainly pull up all the stops. We had pitched an airline company, and we sort of made the room that we were in feel like an airplane, where people would get on and they'd have their seats and the seat trays would come down and you could have your meal on a tray, something to make it unique and special and memorable. Now, again, when you're working at a law firm, maybe that's not the right approach, because again, clients are looking for you to be a little bit more pragmatic in what you're doing. But again, there are definitely ways. We've had videos that we've sent sort of as an after meeting reminder, just to keep us top of mind, that sort of thing. And I think there are lots of different ways to make it unique, but also just to show your experience, your knowledge, what you know about their organization that you're pitching to. Did that answer the question?
100%, Tracey. I think that's a very comprehensive response. Tracey, thank you. At what point did you come across APMP as an industry body?
It's interesting. I kind of came across APMP when I was living and working in New York. I currently live and work in Denver, Colorado. And it was something that I had looked into, but I joined in 2015. And in the beginning, I was hesitant to be active in APMP because, I think when you're new to an organization, it's hard to sometimes jump full feet in. You're not really sure what to expect. You don't necessarily know other people in the organization. And so I remember being really hesitant to participate or to go to a live function. But I will say this, my supervisor really encouraged me to get more involved and more active in APMP. And that for me was the driving force for me to get a little bit more familiar and see what's going on in the industry, and to become more active and to show up at events and to show up and start even sharing ideas for events. When I was in New York, I actually helped create an event that I believe is now an annual thing, where you take people from different commercial industries and you sort of have like a round table discussion. And that was something that I was really proud of. And actually, I understand that a number of other chapters have adopted that sort of model and have put that sort of event on locally. And so that's something I'm really proud of. Yeah, that's kind of when I sort of discovered and how I became more active in it.
Totally. Thank you, Tracey. I think finding an industry body is one, but but joining the local chapter, chairing the local chapter, and recently winning the chapter year of the year, chapter body of the year or something. It's a great achievement. Talk us through about your local chapter, your contributions, and the recent award.
Sure, happy to. So when I moved to Denver, Colorado, one of the first things I did is I reached out to our local chapter board, letting them know that I just relocated from the Liberty chapter in New York, and that I helped create this event, and I'd love to help maybe put it in place here in Colorado. At that time, the board was sort of, I don't know, they weren't exactly excited by the idea. And so they were like, we've tried that sort of thing in the past and we're not sure it'll work, but if you want to reach out to members and see if they'd be interested, go for it. And so I did some outreach, and ultimately at that point in time, it didn't seem like the chapter was looking for that, but they had reached out to me and asked me if I would consider joining the board for the next year. So that was in 2018. And so I joined the board as secretary in 2019. And I took a lot of notes and I shared a lot of ideas. And at that time, there were a few members of the board who I think that they were maybe just tired of being on the board, or they felt frustrated that things weren't working out the way that they had hoped for. And so a lot of the ideas were sort of, oh, we've tried that, it doesn't work. Oh, we've tried that, it doesn't work. And being a new board member who was excited to be on the board, I was starting to get a little frustrated. And I happened to have a conversation with another person on the board who was relatively new to the board, and she was feeling the same way. And we had met for the first time in person at BPC Orlando, because our chapter is not just necessarily local to Colorado, but we're sort of a wide area. We cover Utah, we cover Colorado, we cover Wyoming, Montana, and a couple other states. And so, she was feeling sort of the same way I was. And at that point, we decided to run as co-chairs together for the board. And we wanted to bring in fresh people, fresh ideas, and fresh things. So that was during 2020. And during that time, obviously things in the world have changed drastically. And so we were trying to figure out different things to do, different virtual things we can put together. And we had a handful of new members who were on the board, and they all came with enthusiasm. And I think that's one of the things that is the best thing, because everyone was okay to bring fresh ideas to the table and try something new and different. And in 2021, I asked another member, because the person who was co-chair with me at the time decided to take a step back to be co-chair. We felt like he brought a lot of energy to the table. He had a lot of ideas. He was really enthusiastic about APMP. And so I wanted him to be co-chair with me. And the two of us, we would bounce ideas off each other. We'd bounce ideas off the wider board. And, it's different things that we tried. We've done a lot of outreach. I think actually when we were looking at it, we were trying to figure out how we can engage our chapter. And we really sort of narrowed it down to a few things. We really wanted to focus on engagement, and that meant better communications from the board to the chapter members. And so that was something that we really prioritized. It was about education, not only getting great speakers to come to our chapter and speak on webinars and at events when we could do in-person events again, but it also meant about focusing on everyone sort of getting their next level certifications. And one of the things that we did as a chapter, and I'm particularly proud of this, we offered a certification rebate program for our chapter members, and it led all the way up to the BPC in Denver. And everyone who at that time got a certification and can prove that when they were part of the chapter, obviously we were able to look that up and verify that as well, prove that they were part of the chapter, active chapter member in good standing, and passed their certification, they got $100 rebate from our chapter back to the members. And then we also auctioned off sort of one rebate in full at BPC. We had an event at the BPC Denver for our chapter members. Again, we figured we'd have a good percentage of people because it was local for a lot of our chapter members to be able to come to BPC Denver. And it was a really great opportunity for us to meet people in person because we haven't been doing so many live and in-person events. While we do a lot of virtual events and coffee talks and things like that, it's rare to be able to get everyone together in person these days. We're doing it a little bit more. We have a couple of events coming up that are going to be live and in person, which we're very excited about, but it definitely, you know, with the pandemic, it sort of put a damper on things. And so we were just trying to find new and interesting ways to connect with our chapter members and get them involved in some capacity. So I think we've done a lot of trial and error, and we've done a lot of outreach to get feedback from our members to see if the things that we're doing are working for them, but also, you know, get a sense of what we're not doing, what aren't we doing, what can we do more of, what can we be better at, how can we improve for them. And, you know, sometimes we see some trends in that, and it gives us great topics for our, you know, speakers and for our monthly webinars and for our coffee talks. And so I think we've seen a lot of engagement over the last couple of years, which, you know, we're particularly proud of.
Wow. Thank you, Tracey. Thanks for sharing. I think you were pointers of how joining a membership and then asking or, you know, getting all the feedback and trying to see what works, trialing it, and winning Colorado chapter, making Colorado chapter the winners of this year Chapter of the Year award. Might inspire definitely a lot of people to go and try something new. You know, even though you might have tried in the past, you might have people who have been in the post for a while who think it couldn't be possible, but there is a ray of hope there. Thank you, Tracey. Thanks for sharing. Tracey, in addition to that, you also won a few individual awards as well, the 40 under 40 in 2018, and also your team was recognized in 2018 as a Proposal, a Big Team of the Year. Talk us through about those two awards as well, please, Tracey.
Sure. So, my supervisor nominated me for 40 under 40, and she really focused on some of the education that I was doing, not only for our law firm, but outside of the law firm. So when I joined Hogan Lovells in 2015, which is another global law firm, while I was there, I did a lot of internal training, not only for our marketing and business development team members, but also for our associates, senior associates, and partners. And I also got involved in an organization called the Legal Marketing Association and worked with a number of individuals from other organizations who focus on proposals. And we put together some training and development for the industry. And I think that perhaps is what sort of helps me be recognized as one of the 40 under 40. Not only was I doing it at Legal Marketing Association, but I was developing programs for the Liberty chapter in APMP. And so, you know, I really spent some of my time outside of work to focus on creating educational opportunities or enlightening people or giving advice on proposals within either the legal industry or within the industry in general. And I think that's what sort of positioned me as a thought leader in the industry and doing something great for the industry, which is why I believe I was recognized as one of the 40 under 40 in 2018. And then also our chapter was recognized as Bid and Proposal Team of the Year. So I think a lot of people don't think of law firms necessarily as a place for proposal people, or it's not thought of. But, you know, we are a professional services industry. And while we don't sell a product, we sell people and our people's experience. And there are tons of proposals that we are putting out each year annually. And our team at Hogan Lovells is a relatively small team. We had about 10, 11 people on the team. Half of the team was in the US and half of the team was really in the UK. And one of the things that we sort of instituted at that time was sort of a follow the sun on the proposals. A lot of these proposals have pretty quick turnaround times. If we're lucky, we get 2 weeks. And you know, when you're working on a relatively tight deadline, time really matters. And so, you know, we would put maybe 2 proposal managers on a proposal. And, you know, when one person was done, we pass it to the other person so that we can get that time in order to do, 1, really great work, but 2, utilize our time better. And I think that was one of the things. We also had done a lot of training internally at our firm. I think we did about 1 proposal type training a month. And we would do each one and it would focus on a different topic, whether it was a kickoff meeting or how to tailor content. You know, we do all sorts of different types of trainings, but we did them in all 3 time zones. So we would make ourselves available so that we can really target everyone, you know, in our organization. And at Hogan Lovells, there, you know, we're working with Asia, we're working with Europe, we're working with the US and Latin America. And so we really needed to make sure that we were covering and providing the same training and development for all 3 regions, or all 4 regions really. And so that was something that we did. And I think that may be why we were recognized as the Bid and Proposal Team of the Year. Plus, I like to think that we were really forward thinking in some of the things that we were doing. And I think forward thinking is, by a law firm standard, you know, we were doing some videos, we were doing some microsites and things like that to help engage our clients. And of course, we were trying to put together well-designed proposals as well. And perhaps that may be why we were recognized.
That's really nice, Tracey. I think definitely, I think professional services, when you look at the professional services pitch submissions or the pursuits compared to what we do in a much more regulated, structured proposals, I think, you know, there is a lot of creativity that goes through in a professional services tender compared to the much of the federal or a much more structured tender where it's much more regulated. So that's great. So thank you, Tracey, for sharing. Tracey, we talked about your early life PR career, how that brought you into proposals and the intro to APMP Colorado chapter, and then the awards and stuff so far. Before we enter the Nutters round in honor of Howard Nutt, or the rapid random fire question round, tell us 3 things not many people know about you.
Oh, 3 things not many people know about me. Well, okay, so some people know this, and maybe people would even argue that many people know this about me, but I used to break dance, which is probably pretty interesting and a little bit out there and different. I do love to dance, and I find it incredibly fun and rewarding. I don't have as much time to do it these days, but for a little bit of time, I used to break in Brooklyn with a crew, and people would go to an open practice every couple of days, and it was just a really fun experience for me. So that's probably something that not everybody knows, but some people know. Let's see, what else? I feel like I'm actually quite an open book. A lot of people know a lot of things about me. What else? I made a cameo on The Real Housewives of New York. I have a girlfriend who is a producer and needed some people to be in the background. And ironically, I sat down A lot of the main characters of this television program came and sat near me. And so in this one episode many years ago, I was sort of featured on that program. I went to the 2020 Olympics, not me personally, I'm not an Olympian, but I went there in Sydney, Australia, which was kind of an amazing experience to be a spectator for. So those are three things that not many people know, but I guess now they do.
Wow, that's brilliant. I mean, like from dance to going on to the Olympics, it's great, Tracey. Thank you for sharing. Tracey, I know you have a toddler at home. Talk us through if there is any other hobbies and interests that you have in your spare time. I know that's always been a challenge, but anything else?
I think one of the things, and I don't know if this is classified as a hobby, but especially during the pandemic, you didn't get to see people as frequently. You didn't get to spend time with people as frequently. And so now that things are getting a little bit better, I really do enjoy spending quality time with family and friends. And so whenever I have the opportunity to do that, I really relish that. I don't know if that's considered a hobby, but I'm a mom of a toddler. And so I don't get that much free time anymore. But when I was younger and before BC, before children, I really did enjoy dancing. And so spent a lot of time dancing and exercising here and there.
Nice, Tracey. So let's officially enter the Nutters round in honor of Howard Nutt, or the rapid random fire question round. There's no right or wrong answer. Whatever comes to your mind, that's the answer.
Yeah. Okay.
So what's your favorite dance music?
Oh, my first thought was hip hop, but then it went to sort of 80s music. So somewhere in between, maybe.
Any specific song that automatically when you hear, you start to tap?
Anything by James Brown.
Interesting. That's perfect. There is a fight, but you can choose your opponent. It has to be a celebrity. Who will you choose as an opponent in a fight?
Who would I choose as my opponent in a fight? Oh, gosh. Somebody who's much weaker than me. I don't know. Someone, I can't think of anyone. Yeah, I can't think of anyone who I would choose as an opponent in a fight. I hope to not get into a fight.
And this is just random questions, as I told you. If you switch role as your toddler for a day, what would you do?
If I switched roles with my partner, I guess I would go to work because that's what he does. So my husband is a financial analyst, and I guess I would do that. I guess that's what I would be doing. I don't know that I would do it well, but yeah.
How about if you switch into your little 2-year-old toddler for a day?
Oh, I would run around like a crazy person and eat a ton of food and throw a fit every couple of hours because that's what toddlers do.
That's nice. What's the best compliment you have ever received?
The best compliment I've ever received. Okay, so there are a couple things that come to mind. One is from my husband, who one time I had asked him, what he liked best about me, and he said my brain, which I joked and thought that was a strange answer at the time, but he just thought I was smart and witty, and I appreciate that. And I think other best compliment that I've gotten is work related, just in terms of some of the things that I've done and tried. And, I had a boss sort of give me some glowing feedback on some of the work that I've done and how I, took a chance in the way that I designed something for a pitch, for a proposal. And I appreciated that feedback.
That's so nice. So what's the most ridiculous or an interesting fact or story that you remember that you want to share?
Work-wise or just?
Anything.
Well, work-wise, I can recall a client changing the date of a proposal. And they moved the proposal date up. So we had what I thought was a week, but then midway through they changed it and they were like, oh yeah, you guys only get 3 days. Just kidding. So that to me was pretty crazy and pretty stressful when you think you have more time than you actually do. You plan for the time that you think you have. And that certainly shook me up, and we had to make a lot of changes on the fly in order to get everything done and out the door in a timely fashion when we had a lot less time to do it all of a sudden. So that was pretty challenging and stressful.
I can imagine, 100%. So who haven't you seen or talked to in a long time and you hope that they're doing okay?
Who haven't I seen or talked to in a long time? I have a friend who lives in Switzerland, and I haven't seen or talked to her in a long time. And part of that is because, life happens and you live in different countries, you live in different places. And, we communicate every now and then and share little messages on like social media and things, but obviously it's not the same. And while we've lost touch to some degree, I do hope she's doing okay. And I think she is, from what I've seen on social media.
That's nice. Definitely she should be doing okay. Thank you, Tracey. Tracey, what's something that is of sentimental value to you that you have kept at your home?
Sentimental value of me that I've kept in my home. Let's see. Well, I'm in my home office right now, and the first thing that comes to mind, I have these little figurines from Thailand when I went on a trip to Thailand, and they're little elephant figurines, and elephants are pretty sacred to Thailand, or the Thai people, from my understanding, at least when I was there. And they're supposed to give you good luck. And so I usually have one in my office, like in my work office, and one in my home. And I like to think that they've brought me good luck.
That's nice. It's a good memory that you have, and what a interesting thing to have. Definitely, I think elephant is something that that has a good memory. I mean, like, it always remembers people whom you help. It always remembers the direction of travel of where it goes. And they say sometimes elephants even walk 20 kilometers. The reason for the forest is because of the elephant, because it eats in one place, then it walks around, dumps everything, and moves to the other. So it's very good that you have an elephant as your symbol at home. Nice. So thank you, Tracey. What do you get every time you go for shopping, grocery shopping?
What do I get every time I go grocery shopping? Well, I usually get a lot of snacks and stuff from my son, and I try to make sure that he eats relatively healthy. He likes a lot of fruit, so we usually have a lot of fruit in the house, and whether that's strawberries or mango or blueberries or raspberries or grapes or oranges. I usually buy a lot of fruit because it's one of the things I feed my son a ton of. And then for me, I usually have some chocolates as a bit of a guilty pleasure. And I usually have those in the freezer, so no one will find them but me.
So do you have any favorite food that you are happy to eat every day, every single meal?
I mean, it's probably not healthy food. I feel like I could probably eat pizza any time of day, all the time, but I don't think that would be a good diet to solely have. But pizza's delicious.
Totally. I'll be surprised if somebody says no to that, but that's good.
Yeah.
Who are the people who have been the most influential in your life and career?
I think the people who have been the most influential in my life generally are my parents, my immediate family, my siblings, and my husband. And then when I think about people who have really championed me in my career, I think about some of my former supervisors who have been really wonderful, and even some of my supervisors who maybe weren't wonderful at the time, but I've learned a lot of lessons from those experiences. So I really try to value some of the things that maybe at the time don't seem, I can think of one boss in particular who I thought really might have been out for me and wasn't a fan of me or my work, and learned later that person was really just trying to test me to help me grow. And so while at the time I might have been frustrated by that supervisor, in hindsight, I'm really appreciative of what they did for me and sort of how they got me to think a little bit outside of my comfort zone and pushed me a little bit.
That's nice, Tracey. That's nice. Tracey, if you could give one advice to the bid and proposal community, what advice will that be?
So there's a couple of pieces of advice that I would certainly say. I think being open to try new things and try something different can be really empowering, especially if it goes well. I would also say that be open to things. Some of the things that have been the most meaningful to me are things that weren't necessarily part of my day job. Like some of the training and development that I've done outside of the industry, that was sort of what I refer to as an extracurricular activity, and putting myself out there to do those things have really empowered me personally, and I think have really helped my career. Somebody once told me that you don't necessarily have to be a thought leader to be considered a thought leader. If you're putting out the information, you're automatically viewed as a thought leader because you're the person putting it out there. And to me, that was a really interesting concept. And it's something that I took to heart and really sort of ran with it. And it gave me the courage to do some of those trainings and to put together program ideas and to put out education and to write articles and to do things that were what I refer to as extracurriculars, whether it be with APMP, the Legal Marketing Association, or other organizations, just putting myself out there and taking a chance and doing something that might be a little different. And for me, it's been really valuable.
That's nice, Tracey. Thank you. Tracey, what is that one common myth about the bid and proposal profession that you would like to debunk?
One common myth, that what we do is really boring. I actually don't think it's boring at all. I think what we do is really interesting and exciting, and we learn things about a lot of different types of companies, industries, government, depending on where you sit and what you do, and sort of how you put things together. There's a lot of opportunities within proposals, and it's not boring, and every day is different, and there are different things that come at you every day that makes each day different from the last. And so I think it's an exciting industry to be in.
Thank you, Tracey. Thank you for sharing that. Tracey, I think, we talked about your early life career, professional services, bidding, and people in your life. What's something that you are looking forward to in the immediate future?
So I'm really looking forward to, so I'm taking on a new role at Cooley starting next week, which I'm actually very excited about. Cooley is another large global law firm, and I'm helping to build and develop their proposal team and their proposal infrastructure. And so I'm really excited about that. It's going to be a new challenge for me to really come in and implement things from the ground up. And I think it's going to be a really incredible opportunity. I've had a chance to meet some of my colleagues and my team members, and I think everybody's really enthusiastic. And I think that's going to take us a long way. And they're willing to try new things, which is something that I certainly enjoy doing.
Wow. Wish you all the very best with the new role, Tracey. I mean, I'm sure it will be a mutual for you to learn and for them to learn from you. And, that's these exciting times ahead. Tracey, is there any part of your life or career, or is there anything else that you would like to share to the listeners before we close the podcast?
I can't think of anything else that I'd like to share, but I think everyone should keep pushing forward and just be proud to be a part of this exciting industry.
That's a beautiful way to end. Thank you so much, Tracey, for your time. It's been an absolute privilege to have you, especially when you're toddlers too, and you're moving to a new role. There's a lot that's happening. Thank you for joining, and wish you, your family, Colorado chapter, your colleagues at Cooley, everybody, all the good health and happiness. Stay healthy, stay happy, stay safe, and looking forward to seeing you in person soon.
Thank you. You too.
To our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Please visit batchyscribble.com/podcast to listen to this episode and check out any of our other previously recorded episodes. If you've enjoyed today's interview, don't forget to subscribe, review, and share the Scribble Talk podcast. We hope you'll check out our next episode where we interview another industry expert and special guest. Until then, it's Ashley Kays,
Pastor Sundram,
signing off.